Alright, so we're checking out a new wireless microphone today. It's the BOYAMIC 2. I have testing it right now next to a construction site with no noise reduction. And I'm going to turn it on real quick here just to demonstrate how well this noise reduction feature works in this environment. A lot of construction noise with this new AI noise reduction feature. A lot of these construction sounds should now be gone. If you'd like to check out more about this mic, just stay tuned and we'll talk about all that in this video. Alright, so in this video we're checking out the BOYAMIC 2, and this is BOYA's flagship wireless microphone system. So it's I think their highest end model for this year, and you'll see here, based on the way it looks like and everything, looks very similar to the DJI Mic 2. That's pretty much what it's competing against, but it's basically about half the price. So BOYA is known for putting a lot of nice camera gear out, wireless microphones, especially at budget prices, and they're basically putting out a wireless microphone system that's very similar in features to the DJI Mic 2 to compete with that, but at about half the price. So we'll see at the end of the video. You guys let me know in the comments what you guys feel in terms of the audio quality. We'll have lots of samples, of course, in the video, but first let's talk about what you get in the package here. So obviously the microphones come in this charging case. We'll talk about that here in a second. This version that I got here, and there's a little sticker here on the box that says 2 lavalier mic. I don't think that all of the versions come with these 2 lavalier mics. So these are high quality lavalier mics. You can plug this into the wireless transmitters, and if you don't want to use the microphones that are built into the transmitters themselves, you could, attach this to a shirt or something and hide it away so it's not obvious that you're using a wireless microphone. And it's a standard 3.5mm TRS connection, and you got a pretty long cable here. I believe you can get a version of this without the wireless lavalier mics if you happen to have ones that you already like and use, but there is a version that has 2 of these. I just want to let you know that's why I have those. And then this one came with a nice little carrying bag pouch to hold everything. You're going to get 2 of these wind muffs, and I'll show you how this goes on the wireless mics here in a second. You get a TRS to TRS cable here, 3.5mm audio jack for attaching to cameras, and you get a USB-C to USB-C cable that is probably for charging the charging case here on this USB-C port in the back. There, you get a warranty card, and you get a quick start guide. There is a QR code in here that goes to their downloadable full manual, but I'll show you a little bit of the manual here in a second. Alright, so here is the charging case, so not much here to see. Some rubber feet here on the bottom, the charging port in the back, and you have a lid that just lifts up, and it does close magnetically, so it will stay closed if you're worried about that. There are 4 LEDs here in the front that show the battery charge of the charging case, and the battery in here will charge up the receiver plus the 2 transmitters. Now, the version I have here only comes with the USB-C connector for the receiver. There's a spot here for the lightning connector, which I think you have to buy separately, and there's a little rubber plug there. You can pull that out for storage of that if you want to buy it separately. And of course, the transmitters, they just go in here magnetically, and there's some pins here on the bottom to charge up the battery inside here. USB-C port there to charge up the internal battery on this as well. And there's also 8 gigabytes of internal storage, and that is for the 32-bit float recording capability. It's actually 24-bit or 32-bit. It's 24-bit default, and then you can change it in the settings to 32-bit float if you want, and then of course you can record that directly to the onboard storage. You can also use this as a standalone recorder as well without connecting to the receiver, and there's a record button here. You press that, it starts recording. This little light will start flashing, and then you record your audio, press that again, and it'll stop recording. So you can use this as a separate, like a voice recorder on its own. But it's nice you can have this feature turned on while it is transmitting the audio to the the receiver and going to your camera or smartphone. If, for example, the wireless connection is interrupted, interference, whatever, you won't lose that audio if you have the backup recording turned on, and then that audio will be stored on the 8 GB storage. It's on the transmitter itself. But in terms of the transmitter itself, it's about a little over 20 grams, so it's not super light. That's your port there for connecting a lavalier microphone, but the condenser mic is actually built into the top here. It's a little hard to see, but it's right there. And this is mainly designed to be clipped onto something like a shirt or some sort of clothing, maybe a hat. But you also have a magnet here as well, pretty standard. And you can use that to also attach it to things. The buttons here, you have a noise reduction button here, a power button here, and then the record button over there. And that's pretty much it. So pretty nice, compact, slightly translucent. You kind of look inside, but that is transmitter 1. Transmitter 2 looks exactly the same. Pull out the receiver. Again, you have the pins there for charging. This is where you connect the USB-C connector. And this is when you want to connect this to a smartphone or maybe some other action cameras that have USB-C microphone in. You can do that. This is the USB-C port for charging the internal battery, but of course most people probably will just stick it in the charging case to charge things up. So let's go ahead and put this back in here. It goes in like this, and everything will just automatically power off when you put it into the charging case, and it'll start charging. And there's some, I'm not sure if you can read that there. It shows you how much recording is available. It says 673 minutes of recording time on this one here. This one says 899 minutes of recording time. So I think that's because I have some stuff recorded on here already, and then there's a little bit of difference maybe in the settings, which I'll show you in a second. I think maybe one might be 24-bit and the other one might be 32-bit. Not 100% sure. I kind of played around for a little bit. But anyway, this can, again, clip onto something. So if you want to have it clipped onto some part of your camera, you can do that. But you can also use the cold shoe on a camera to attach it. So let me just show you here really quickly. This is my A7S III Sony. There's actually it's a hot shoe, but that'll work the same as well. And then you can just slide this in like that, and it'll hold the microphone in place. Then you use your TRS cable here. So one is a headphone, so if you want to monitor your audio, you can do that. But this one here is the audio output there, and then you can plug the other end into the camera like so. And then of course you'll need to do some gain adjustment. We'll talk about that here when you get into the settings on the particular camera that you're going to be using. But that's essentially how that works. The receiver will receive the audio from the two transmitters and then output that to your camera. And then of course you just need to do some tweaking of the gain to make sure that you're not clipping. But that's basically how this setup works. And again, just looking around the receiver, nothing on this side. There's a dial here. You can adjust your input gain or output gain on this dial, and also change some of your settings via that as well. The touchscreen here is an AMOLED touchscreen. It is you can actually use this to change all the settings. Here's your power button here. And the power buttons, by the way, also act as pairing buttons as well if you hold them down for 5 seconds when it's shut off. And again, the audio out and the monitoring there for headphones. And on the side, you get the USB-C port there. It does pass through, I believe, as my understanding is, if you have this connected to a device that is using this, for example, USB-C or whatever. This actually, let's see, I think it just goes in like this, and then you twist it. There we go. So, like for example, if you have this connected to a phone and or some other device, the power will get transferred through while the connection it's a hot connection. So you don't have to worry too much about losing battery power. It will do pass through charging. And then of course again the dial here which is as a button, and then you got your screen. So right now you can see there's nothing connected. So it's because the transmitters are both powered off. Go and pull these out. And now we can see that they're both connected, and you can see the audio level there based on where I'm holding the microphones. So I think this is transmitter 2. So I'm going to talk into this. Well, actually, this one, the one I'm talking to right now, is transmitter 1, and you can see that the audio level is kind of peaking there slightly. And you don't want it to go too red. So if I'm talking really, really loud, of course, you see it's red there, then you know that you want to adjust your input gain. We'll show you that here in the settings here momentarily. But the live audio level there is really nice, and you can see basically if you're too close to the mic, you can see it starts peaking, and you can adjust the audio gain down. But again, if the microphone is kind of far away, so if I have the on the table over here, you know, you can see that the audio levels are not even close to peaking at all. So actually at this distance, the audio level might be a little bit on the low side, so you may want to adjust it up so that's not too quiet. But of course, you know, if it's recording 32-bit float on the transmitters itself, that's a very manipulable audio format. So even if it's too quiet or too loud, it basically won't be clipped at all. It'll be a nice audio file. You can actually raise the gain of those in your post-production without affecting the quality of the audio, which is important. So anyway, going around here, you get your audio, the gain, it's called input gain here on the upper left-hand corner. It's at 0. That's the default here. And then I have changed this one here. It says the output gain, which is -4, based on the camera that I was going to connect to, the Sony camera. You can change it by manufacturer. That will change here, or you can adjust it to whatever you want. And then there's a few other things here that'll pop up, like 32-bit recording or the noise canceling feature. So you can see that it's not turned on right now. I'll turn on noise canceling by just pressing this button here. And you can see the green is it can be the green or white. So green is like the standard, which is like the strong noise canceling. But if it's white, then which you can change in the settings, that'll be the weak noise canceling. Let's go ahead and turn it on the other one as well. Okay, so yeah, if you do turn it on one transmitter, it'll turn it on for both. So something to be aware of. I thought it could do one or the other, so let's go ahead and turn it back on, and then you can see the green light there. 32-bit recording is currently turned off, and so to go into the settings, you swipe down on the settings there, and there's basically the first level of the menu. You have transmitter settings. You can swipe left or right, so receiver settings or standard settings. So you can do that by just swiping. I think you can also use the dial here. Yeah, so you use the dial to go through, and then let's say if you want to go into here, you just press the button, and that should go into the settings, I think. Or I guess that doesn't seem to work. Let me see. Let's go to the transmitter settings. Yeah, so while you can use the dial to go between the different options, you have to actually go, I think you have to actually tap on the screen to go in. So there we go. So this is the just standard settings for the receiver. You got display, language, date and time, factory reset, and version. And of course you can probably do firmware upgrades on this as well, but of course right now there aren't any. Swipe up. So you have your receiver settings here, and then you have your transmitter settings. Let's go into the transmitter settings first. So they have the LED indicator. If you go in here, you can turn that on. Right now it's turned on. That's because that's this light right here, which is currently green because the noise cancellation is turned on. If you turn it off, it'll turn blue. But if we tap on this, turn it off, you can see now it is turned off. But I'm going to leave it on just to keep things kind of stock. And then swipe up again to go back out. I'll swipe there to get the input gain. And here, we can adjust it by transmitter. So it's transmitter 1, transmitter 2. And it goes from -12 dB to +12 dB. I've already tested this, and 0 is actually pretty effective if you're keeping the mic about a foot away from your mouth. If you're closer to your mouth, you probably want to lower the gain. And if you're further away, then you want to increase the gain. Then you have to adjust it based on your needs. And it looks like it jumps out of the menu. It times out. So let's go back in here. And okay, so then we'll go with the next menu item. There's EQ. So there's just basically standard, and then there's low cut and look at 75 hertz and look at 150 hertz. I believe the difference is, and I'll probably have to show it to you in the manual, or I'll put a little cutout here on the screen. And what the difference is between these two basically has to do with cutting out background noise. So you want to use one of those two based on instead of doing the AI noise cancellation feature, it just actually cuts off the audio at those particular points. So it's a little bit different way of reducing background noise, maybe without manipulating it too much. So that could be an option for you. All right, so there is audio recording is the next one. So its default is turned off, but if you want to turn it on, when you pull the transmitters out of the case and first turns on, it starts recording the audio onto the transmitter immediately. But I don't want that to happen, so I'm going to leave that off. Here's the storage. You can go in here. You can see, okay, we have 899 minutes on transmitter 1 and 899 minutes on transmitter 2. This is based on the settings for each transmitter. Go back out. And this is the 32-bit float recording feature. Go in here. Right now you can see that it's disabled. Go ahead and turn that on so that when we record our video files, a 32-bit float file will be recorded to the drive or the 8 gigabytes internal storage. Next feature is transmitter lock, and I think that is, if you go in here right now, the default is turned off. I think it disables the buttons on here. So if you have it on, say like some sort of someone that might be accidentally pressing buttons, and you don't want that to happen where it might turn things off. You want to lock it, you can do that, but obviously I'm not going to be messing around with the buttons when I'm recording, so I'm going to leave that off, but you can turn that on if you need that. And then you have the auto off feature. So if these things are on for too long, I think it times out and will automatically shut off. All right, so that was transmitter settings. Let's go to receiver settings here. So you have your different recording modes. So you have mono, stereo, and then you have basically mono with a safety track. So mono is basically, it just, say for example, if you're using 2 transmitters that will record a mono track, it'll actually combine them and record a mono track on both audio channels. And then stereo, it'll give you one audio track for each of the 2 stereo channels. So on transmitter 1, it'll be on the left channel, and transmitter 2 will be on the right channel. And then the safety channel will record a mono track at whatever input gain you have set for the transmitters, and then a safety track which will be at a very, I think it's a reduced input gain. I think it's negative 12 dB, just in case anything is clipping, so that you could choose that. But I already tested this, and the mono sounds really good already. So I would only use stereo if you definitely have 2 different sources of audio and you want to have that sort of spatial separation. Otherwise, it's probably not really, I don't think it's going to sound necessarily better. All right, so that was recording mode. There's output gain, and that's the gain that's coming from this port here. And that was, I think, changed based on the manufacturer that I selected. I'm going to leave that at negative 4 dB for now. And then there's auto gain. So auto gain will basically adjust the gain of the receiver going to your camera, and it'll sort of do it based on what's coming in from the transmitters. I haven't tested that thoroughly enough yet to give you enough information about whether that's useful or not. I think that if you're in an environment where you have a lot of really loud noises, and then it gets kind of quiet and kind of goes back and fluctuates back and forth, you have a lot of wide variance in the sort of the loudness of the environment that you're in, then maybe I think that would be useful. But I think for most situations, I think I would leave that off. All right, so going to camera presets, here is where I set it to Sony. It's by default, it's just this negative, basically nothing. And I think when you do that, the output gain, oh, it didn't change that here. I thought it would change that. So let's go back out. And let's change it to Canon. So there's Sony, Canon, Nikon, Panasonic, Fuji. Let's see what Fuji is. Let's go back out. Output gain. Okay, so it does change output gain based on the manufacturer. So for Fuji, it's set it to 0 dB. So it really depends on the camera that you're using. Some will prefer more output gain, or some will prefer less. So you have to something to play around with. I'm actually going to experiment with this a little bit more before I start recording my samples for you guys. All right, so that's camera presets. And then there's this speaker feature. I think that is, yeah, it's on. So when you have this connected to a smartphone and you want to play back something you just recorded, sometimes if it detects that there's a USB microphone in there, it thinks it's a USB speaker and it won't output to the speakers on the smartphone. And then if you have this on, then it will actually allow the speakers to work on your smartphone. So that I'm going to leave that on. And again, just auto off for powering down after a certain amount of time. And then the pair device feature here to, if you happen to lose the pair on your transmitters, you can go into there and initiate the pairing. And basically you turn the transmitters off by just long pressing the button for 2 seconds, and then the light will turn off there. And then to put it in the pairing mode, you long press the button for 5 seconds, and then you'll see the blue light turn on, and then it will then start flashing after 5 seconds, which means it's in pairing mode. Okay, so now you can see here that the 32-bit float is turned on, as I showed you earlier. All right, so using this with a smartphone, again, very basic, you just make sure you have the USB-C attachment on the bottom there, or Lightning if you have an iPhone with a Lightning connector, and you just plug it in. There's really nothing to do. And then it doesn't really indicate anything here that it knows that there's something plugged in. But when you start recording here, you'll see it thinks it's recording audio through USB microphone because it detects that your USB microphone is attached. Now, if you're wondering if you have to detach the USB-C connector there every time you put it back in the case, you don't. You just see there's a little sort of cutout there for that. Just goes back in there, powers off, and just stick the transmitters back in, and they'll power off as well. And very easy to use. Alright, so I forgot to show you some of the specs here from the manual. 2.4 gigahertz is the frequency. It says basically Wi-Fi based. And so your maximum transmission distance is 300 meters. And it says 60 meters with obstacles, so it's 300 meters line of sight. Some other important things here, say 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz, pretty standard for most high-end mics these days. Sensitivity of 32 dB. And then you have your, again, as I mentioned, 48 kilohertz sampling, 24 and 32-bit for the recording. Now in terms of the battery life here for the transmitters, it's saying 9 hours with noise cancellation and onboard recording off, and 6 hours with noise cancellation and onboard recording on. So just cut into your battery life with those features turned on. And again, here's the dimensions and the weight. Specs on the receiver, and pretty much all the same stuff as I mentioned. Battery life up to 15 hours, and it weighs almost 30 grams. Alright, just want to do a quick overview of the app. I just got some information on how to get it to work. There wasn't a lot of documentation in the manual, so I'm just going to show you. It's not terribly difficult to figure out, so you have to go to your Play Store or Apple Store and download this app called BOYA Central. I already have it installed, and it should automatically recognize the receiver as you plugged into the USB-C port in the bottom here. And when you plug it, when you first open the app and don't have this plugged in, you won't see anything. It'll just be blank. And so you plug it in, it'll recognize that there's a device connected. It'll say, oh, we got the BOYAMIC 2 connected, and it's plugged in, and you just tap on it. It goes into the settings here. This is in Chinese. I don't know what that is, so I just hit cancel, and then it shows you the different settings. So all the settings I showed you earlier that you can manipulate via the touchscreen, you also do that here as well. So if you like a more, this is actually probably a little more intuitive in terms of the interface. You change all the same settings, the output gain, mic gain. And then this is the thing that I couldn't change in the menu on the touchscreen. I think you can only do this in the app. It's the AI noise cancellation. And as you can see here, I have it set to weak. So if you recall, I mentioned that there was basically no noise cancellation or strong noise cancellation, so minus 40 dB or minus 15 dB. And when you do the weak, the noise cancellation icon is in white. And when you switch to strong, it turns green. And in either case, the light is going to be green on the transmitters, as you can see here. But for our initial testing, we'll have it off. And of course, the lights are going to be blue, and you have no indication there. You can also set your recording settings here, recording time. Let's see if like for example, when you change the noise cancellation settings for one transmitter, it changes it on the other one. That says as before, but it looks like you can do recording on one transmitter and not the other if you want. And I have different gains on the different transmitters. So you can have, so I have 4 on the transmitter. This is transmitter 1. And transmitter 2, it is 0. So you can adjust those independently. So that's nice. Also, you can go to here to the settings. Here you can have your custom EQ settings. So I think I basically had it on what's original. There's a few other things you can show that I didn't show you before. There's vocal boost. There was the low cut and low cut 75 hertz and low cut 150 hertz. And let's just show you that you get a little icon there. And you see you get that icon there on the touchscreen here. But for our testing purposes here, I'm just going to keep everything on original default settings, but you can go in here and change this to custom EQ if you want. So you set it to custom EQ, and then you go to the custom EQ menu, and then you can adjust your EQ to whatever you want basically, and you can have multiple ones. You can then apply different settings here, but you can go totally wild there, so you're going to get different results depending on your equipment as well. So there's too many variables, so I'm going to just go to the default settings, and generally I felt like the default settings were they sounded pretty good out of the box anyway. So if you feel like the default settings are lacking in some way, you do have the ability to make your own custom EQ to sort of shape the sound to your liking. And in the rest of the settings here for the transmitter, you got your same things here: auto recording, 32-bit float, auto gain, transmitter lock, all the same things as before. And then on the receiver settings, you have your camera presets, recommended gain by brand and model. Let's see here. Let's go to brand. Yeah, so you can go to say Sony, and they have different models here as well. So this is not in the menu on the touchscreen. So they have A7C, A7M3. Let's see if I can find my camera. Yeah, there it is, the A7S3. So these are the recommended gain for this particular camera, which is 1 dB. So that's pretty nice. So if I'm using that camera, I'll go ahead and switch to that. But I'm going to be using my DJI Pocket, but it doesn't look like DJI is in any of the settings here for the brand, so I'm going to have to adjust that on my own. And here's the rest of the stuff you can change. So you got your brightness setting for the display. So if you are in a dark environment, you don't want this to be too bright, you can lower the brightness, but the stock brightness is actually pretty good. It's an OLED screen. I don't think it's overly bright. Alright, so enough talking about all this overview stuff here. Let's go ahead and get you some audio samples, and you guys let me know what you guys think of the quality audio from the BOYAMIC 2. Alright, so I'm in my car, got the windows closed, I'm stopped. This should be a baseline for what the audio sounds like in an enclosed environment like this. So there's going to be a little bit of reverb and echo from the windows, but obviously no background noise, and we're just hearing the audio from the microphone. This is with no noise reduction. I'll just go ahead and turn it on. Got strong noise reduction turned on here. Maybe that'll cancel out some of the reverb or the echo. But let's get an idea as a baseline what it sounds like in the car, not moving, windows closed. And then now we're going to test the background noise, road noise, with the windows up and down. So let's go ahead and turn noise reduction off. And let's get out of here. Okay, so now I'm driving and the windows are up. Just some background road noise from the tires and such. No noise reduction. And I'll go ahead and turn noise reduction on. And Here's what it sounds like again. About the same speed, only about 20, 30 miles an hour. I'm going to come to a stop here. This is with the noise reduction turned on, with just a little bit of background noise at moderate speed. And I'm going to turn noise reduction back off again. I'm going to roll the windows down. So we got some wind noise coming in now, as well as some cars. No noise reduction. And now wind noise, windows down, noise reduction turned on. So should be drowning out that background noise. All right, just continuing to drive around my neighborhood. And again, no noise reduction. Windows are up. Coming to a stop here. Got a truck going by. And I'm going to turn noise reduction back on again. So windows are up. So we're just getting the noise from the road and just the car sounds. With the noise reduction on, you should see a significant reduction in the background noise. So this AI noise reduction is trained, or the algorithm is trained on hundreds of thousands of different kinds of background sounds and noises. So supposedly it's better than your typical standard noise reduction you see out there from most other wireless mics. You guys let me know in the comments below what you guys think of this AI noise reduction feature. All right, so I'm parked now, and right over here is a bunch of pickleball courts. You can probably hear that familiar pickleball sound. There's a lot of pickleball courts here in my neighborhood. So this is with obviously no noise reduction, so you should be able to hear that pretty clearly, along with the background audio of the people talking. And I'll turn it on now, so the noise reduction is on, and hopefully we'll get a reduction in that pickleball sound, as well as the people talking. You should only be hearing my voice now, and pretty much all that background noise should be gone now. Now the AI feature of this noise reduction algorithm should make the audio, or the voice, or my voice, sound more natural, probably compared to some other noise reduction wireless mics out there. But take a look at my wireless mic playlist and let me know what you guys think in this AI noise reduction feature, how it compares to some of the other ones that I reviewed in the past. And actually there's a jet sound right there. You can see in the back. Turn the noise reduction off, and if you can hear that, let me know. I'll turn it back on again, and let's see if the jet noise has been basically removed, along with other background noises like the pickleball. All right, so gonna do a range test now. I'm gonna be walking backwards here so I can keep this mic within line of sight of the receiver. So it doesn't go up to 300 meters. Again, the pickleball court's over here on my right. Noise reduction is on right now. So, and there's a jet over there as well. I'm gonna keep on going back. And try and maintain clear line of sight. If there's obstacles in the way, that's going to obviously reduce the overall range of this microphone system. All right, still going backwards. Obviously, not sure why you would want to go this far away from your mic or from your camera. I'm sure you can barely see me here. Obviously, there's probably some scenes where you want to film yourself and
capture you at a distance and still have audio. So this is about as far as I'm going to go. Put up on the screen how far I went, and we see if we had any loss in our signal.